my lady and me hit a barrel house with a nasty beat, where you can taste the sweat from the heated blues, but feel no regret from the men she choose. Bounce that kid drum till the dancers just can't land. That drummer sure can pop and crack. Kick back, you jive with the band. That drummer sure can pop and crack.
Let's hear it for Elena.
Kick back, you jive with the band.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, this is my little baby back here. This is my pet project, but thank you all for coming. I'm so honored to have Neil and his whole team here today and to try that delicious bourbon. It's amazing, so please do yourself a favor. If you haven't tried it, go get some now and make sure you buy some.
Love's the only sound.
Okay, so it all started, I was born. Oh, wait a minute, this isn't about me. Neil, could you come and join me on the stage? Yeah, that would be awesome. Could you welcome Mr. Neil Giraldo to the stage?
Yes, side by side, all white and black. Kick back, you jive with the band.
So, yeah. Get a little relaxed, get comfy. So, the reason why we're here tonight is because there's been a wonderful introduction that's been made in my life to first a company called Chord Bourbon, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And because of that introduction, I got introduced to the gentleman to my right. And this is all part of an ongoing conversation, which is I think what is a wonderful theme of this brand, and you know, what we're doing not only in this community, but we're doing in music communities across the country. And so we thought it would be really great, since we're doing this show tonight, that we could stop in here to one of the last great record stores in the country and be able to talk about music, talk about some of the behind the scenes things, you know, kind of hear a little bit about the production aspect and you know, some of the things that have been done along the way, especially since we're in a temple to vinyl, you know, if you would. And just kind of give you guys a little bit of taste of what it's like to get to know one of the premier Grammy award-winning producers, musicians, songwriters of our time. And so, you know, with that, I'm gonna start to ask, you know, Neil some questions as we go, and kind of we're just gonna have a conversation that you all can listen and be a part of. And then towards the end, we'll actually get you involved in the conversation too, with asking some questions. All right, sound good? All right, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. So just to kind of preface this, I got recruited. I got a phone call, and it was you know, from these guys that said, hey, we got referred to you through the Blues Society in Western New York, and we're doing this event, and they said that we should have you guys play it. And I said, all right, and you know, we talked about it and everything, and this was, you know, probably 8 months before COVID smacked down, you know, and got together, we did our thing, and the CEO of the company, Paul Nabula, and Tony, who I think is like the maestro behind the curtain.
Professor.
Yeah, the professor, that's right. And you know, they sat down, they said, Dave, you know, we've got this vision that's come down from our founder, Neil Giraldo, that he really wants to give back to musicians, to the music community, and we think that you kind of are one of these guys that we would love to be partnered with on this, and can we get together and talk about it? And so that's really where the conversation began. And it went from there to a little lunch meeting at Neat outside of Buffalo, New York, a great little restaurant and 3-Chord account. And we sat there and talked about what this could look like. And then over the next 8 months, we started kind of living it out and trying to figure out how we could work together to benefit not just me, but artists like me that are out there. And that's kind of gone through this whole process, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail, I'm sure, during part of this discussion. But it was because of that initial conversation that we got invited to become a part of an event that was actually part in Rochester here, and Bart in Buffalo. We actually played over at the Montage Music Hall with Derek St. Holmes. And yeah, some of you were there, yeah, right. And we had a great evening, and that was really, that time was the first time that I got to meet Neil. And I need to tell the story of the actual first time that our eyes met. And that was playing at a little club in East Aurora. My band was playing, it was a little party. And I saw the entourage walk in. You can't miss Tony, because he's 20 feet tall.
Large.
He's a big dude. He's a big dude. And he walked in, and of course, you know, I'd seen pictures of this guy, and, you know, there's only one Neil Giraldo in the world. And, and I saw, and we were up there doing our thing, and he looks at me and he goes, "Give me one of those." And that's like, it didn't matter what happened the rest of the night. I was good. It sounded all right. He felt it a little bit. I felt like, man, we did something.
You know, can I tell him the truth that you're actually my son?
Oh, sure.
He's my
If you
son.
want to out it like that.
Because nobody can say those kind of things if they weren't related to me. So, son, it's good to see you.
Man. Yo, Pops.
Son Miller.
Yo, Pops.
Good. Son Miller's a good name.
Yeah, that's right. I know. Why didn't I use that for a stage name? Where were you? I could have done. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the conversation between us began. And I can tell you we've had many more conversations between phone calls and emails and texts and meetings and just getting to know the heart of this guy. And I can tell you firsthand that if you had asked me if I'd ever meet someone that had done as much in the music industry as this man does and have him give me the time of day, the way that I would have never believed it would have happened. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the friendship and the mentorship. And that's kind of where this conversation started, and I'm excited to see where the conversation continues to go. So with that being said, I know some of how I got kind of bit by the music bug, and I really kind of want to know, where did this thing come from? Where did this drive to play music come from for you?
Well, before we get started, son, Elena, thank you for having us, by the way, in your fabulous home of records and vinyl, which we all love. He mentioned one thing, David mentioned one thing that was kind of important. The reason mentoring works or how it can be helpful to people, you have to have two people that work. In other words, helping someone that won't listen doesn't work. So it takes two people. So whatever David does and increases his profile and spreads the word of his music out there, it's because of him. It's not because of me, it's him. He listens. I don't always have the right thing to say, and it happens a lot. Son, you heard that when you were little, when you were this big, you didn't listen. But it takes it. You have to listen. You have to pay attention. To answer the question you said. All right. So when I was 6 years old, my father bought me a guitar because I wanted to play flute. This is pretty odd, but I wanted to play flute in school, and I was sent to school too early, and I had separation anxiety. It was real bad. I was in first grade when I was 5 years old. That was really a bad move, but in retrospect, it was a good move, right? So, and they wouldn't let me play flute because they already had a person that played flute. 6 years old, or somebody's playing flute, but that's all right. So my father wanted me to play guitar so I could do duets with my sister who played accordion. Then we could do Sicilian or Italian heritage songs after church on Sundays to entertain our family and friends, right? So that was the beginning. But there was something else that was really important. And I had to go back and I had to show Michael Nanula, part of our three-chord family, the Everly Brothers. When I saw Cadence Records and I saw that logo spin around, I was kind of interested in going to art school at that age too, because I love art and I love the visual part of things, right? But I was music to me really hit hard. And I remember listening to Heartbreak Hotel on my mother's, I keep going to say hi-fi and not Wi-Fi. They were called hi-fis. Remember the big hi-fis, right? And I imagine myself walking down Lonely Street because I heard the depth of the bass. And I heard Elvis's voice and the reverb that seemed like it was coming from a different place. It's just the whole stylings that. And I realized then that I wanted to be a record producer at that age, and I would use instruments as tools because I only cared about the song. That's all I cared about. Not only the song, but the tone and what it does to you physically and mentally. It takes you to a place that is so special. It's like reading a book. All the characters in the book are your own people. You see somebody different than anybody else sees, right? So when I'm making records and I'm thinking about music, I look at it as a cinematographer, like that's the wrong word, like an architect. I see it visually, and I work with different engineers and people that would use the colors. I want it to sound more blue. Can you make it red? I never did that. I did it more of like a whole scene. You know, I want that snare drum reverb to here. I want the backgrounds here. I want the piano, little keyboard here, guitar, all these things. So, okay, I'm going too far deep into this thing. But
It hit you early.
yeah, it got me really early. And since I had this anxiety and the separation, this serious problem, I was sick almost every day of my life that I can remember. I never went to school because after I go to school, I say, call my mother. I gotta go home. I feel terrible. So I'd go home. What would I do when I got home? Put the guitar on. Felt like home. And then I started playing more and listening. And my father, who just passed away about 3 weeks ago, was the greatest man I've ever known. Yeah, he was the greatest man I've ever known. He was the greatest teacher, just a tough guy with the heart of an angel. He was a sweet, sweet guy. Taught me everything about life that I could ever want out of a father. I wish everybody had a father like him. And he was a carpenter, and when he would come home, he'd bring stuff home from the jobs he did at people's houses. So we'd come home with like a go-kart one time. Pop, where do you get that from? And I did a job and they liked me, so they gave me a go-kart. Then a refrigerator came. And we were very poor. We didn't have those things. And then a piano came. He said, son, do you want a piano? I go, yeah. So that was 11 years old. So I started playing piano because it was an upright with broken keys. And every instrument I could get my hands on. That's what I want to do. Not to perfect the instrument. We got to get this right. I never felt I would ever be one of those guitar players or piano players that are just one of those savant kind of people. I never did. I only cared about songs. And I'm going to say this, that, people ask who's my biggest influence. And if we talk about the pop or rock world, I've bounced around, and then it finally came to me. The number one inspiration to me was Pete Townsend. Absolutely Pete Townsend, because he cared about songs only. He used an instrument to write songs, to be part of that, and he wanted to express his feelings through that, because he knew he never could be that thing, and I never could be that either. And I say it with humility, because I would never be like Pete Townsend, because he was the greatest of all time. But in that pattern, in that mold that you want to aspire to, he would be the guy.
I knew that there was and we've had conversations around the edges of this, but I knew that there was another reason yet why, there's a connection. And that's because I feel exactly the same way. I mean, I never felt like, to this day, there's voices that I hear that I could listen to forever. Mine is not one of them.
I like it.
Well, I appreciate that. And as far as guitar, playing guitar was always the vehicle to tell the song's story. It wasn't about what I could do on it. That doesn't even vibrate right with me.
But you do appreciate it. I mean,
I do.
Appreciate
Oh yeah.
that. There's no question.
Yeah, when I hear, I was doing a gig the other night at this great little 3-chord account, and a guitarist came in.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him later, and I said, I said, I always get nervous when guitarists come in the room, because I'm a guy that plays guitar, and he's a guy that is a true, he studies that. It is something that he just knows.
If you want to learn guitar and then quit real soon, just go on YouTube,
right,
and watch every one of those 14-year-old players that are like burning like crazy,
right.
Because there's a thing that they had that we never had, which was really cool, is that they were able to see copies of a film of other people playing. I was trying to figure out Hendrix. I didn't know he tuned out to E flat. I'm trying to play stuff, and I had no idea what he was doing. Now you can actually watch, slow it down, speed it up, you can do everything. And they're gonna be a million of these great players. There's a million now. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah, that's so true. So talking about songs,
yes,
because I think that's this building is full of songs, right? When did you start like composing? And what were those first compositions like? I'm just curious. What were they like?
Garbage. Yeah, out of 10 garbage, maybe get one fairly decent. It's a process that takes a while to kind of learn. You know, when I played with Derringer in '78, I joined that band, and it was interesting because when I joined the band, I didn't think I'd get the gig because they tried over 200 guitar players. And the only reason I probably got the gig is because I play piano too, and I also wrote. See, so I did a lot of different things, and it worked, right? But I tried writing for Rick, and not that I wrote was any good. I just couldn't get it to work. It just wasn't working. So I had a lot of stuff laying around and on the floor. It takes partnerships to make those things work, you know. You just gotta start somewhere, and you know, there's still ideas. They never stop.
Oh, I know. Believe me. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we were back there, and a little nugget went into your phone.
Yes.
Saw it happen.
You know that.
I saw it happen.
It's pretty good. It
It's a good nugget
all the time.
So then, you know, then there's the other aspect where there's the writing of the songs, right? But then you talked about early on you wanted to start producing them. You saw.
I wanted to produce when I was 6 years old.
Right.
I didn't know what that word. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew I wanted to know everything about what was going on in that record. Like I said, I wanted to walk down Lonely Street. I wanted to be really in there. Because the truth of the matter is, the records you love, and the reason you love them, you don't know why you love them. You don't know why, but something just hits you that you kind of go, it feels really good. And I got to tell you, when you're a producer and you listen to the details and you listen to a whole feel, if there's something off, it can make it be not a hit or a hit. And it's as much as a snare drum that the reverb isn't right, or the vocal is just, it's not mixed correctly, or the EQ is wrong. There's all those things, and it's a whole collection. A song like Love is a Battlefield, when I did that, I had this concept of a Bo Diddley feel, because that's a boom, 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 it's Bo Diddley, right? But then I thought, how can I make it sort of fast, and how can I make it different, and how can I join all these little styles, genres together, and see if I can come up with something cool? But here's the point. The point I'm making is that I paid a lot of attention to all the cinematic parts in the record, right? And even then, when I sent it, took it to the record company, I says, here it is, what do you think? And they says, it sucks, and we're not gonna release it. And I said, oh, that's kind of rough, that's kind of harsh, why is that?
That's a little harsh.
He said, it's too fast, there's talking, what is the talking, why is there whistling, and why is all this going on? And I said, well, first of all, I wanted to do like a little fun. I wanted to have some fun, like the Supremes with Diana Ross talking. So I said, you know, Patricia, talk in the beginning of this. This would be fun. You know, we were young, man. You know, have some fun. Whistling, let's get a little Otis Redding on the end of it, right? Just try different stuff, right? And so I had a lot of pushback for a while, right? And my engineer, co-producer, says, I got to figure out how I'm going to tell Neil, me, that it sucks and we got to scrap it and start again. So he never drank. He did not go home and drink 3-Chord, because had he drank 3-Chord right away, he would have loved it from the beginning. He did. He drank a bottle of cognac, and he never drank. Come in, as he's listening to it, he goes, son of a bitch, I think he's right. Gives me chills to think about this. Comes into the studio. I said, Pete, I can't, I don't want to do it again. I think it's right. He goes, I'm behind you 100%. I'm going to stick behind you. We're going to make it work.
Wow.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked.
That's amazing.
But, yeah. But it's part of having all those elements. You know, David, I talked to David a lot about his stuff, the stuff that he does, his records, his demos and things. And we have this little ongoing deal we got going on of this drum beat that he keeps falling into, where it's a tune of 4 is establishing that feel like your heart. And somehow the drummers and the parts that this guy plays always falls on sort of a 1. And it feels, it kind of trips me up and it messes with the heart rhythm or something. So we have this, he's laughing now because he knows how much shit I give all about this. But I'm going to show you how that's going to work.
Hey,
you know that's
show
going
me.
to work.
Show me.
Yeah.
Show me. I'm ready. What's really cool is I never, until you just said that, caught the Bo Diddley influence in that song. And now it's so obvious to me. And I never saw it before. I don't know why I didn't. But I think it's one of those things, and I think that's beautiful when I see that done is when there's an idea that's in one genre and it's used in another genre, it becomes fresh and new all over again. Which and yet, you know, there's so much. We're all building off of the giants before us, right?
Of course.
And the context, you know, we heard something, it influenced us. It goes into this, it comes out a little different. And I think that's what's beautiful. Like if we went through the store and started playing records, we could go, oh, that's a little like this, and oh, look at that. Oh, you can hear a little bit of that in that. And I think that's, honestly, I think that's one of the beautiful things that music tells us about human nature.
Of course.
Because we're all that too,
All the time.
you know?
Well, you know what's important too? You just said that. This hit me on something. Is metabolism. Musicians, are there musicians out here somewhere? Are there musicians anywhere?
Yes, there's a few.
Floating
There's a
around,
few.
musicians. Okay. Drummer? Guitar player. Okay. You do a track. I'm going to give you a little insight, stuff that's pretty cool. You do a track, you're in a studio, okay? And you listen it back. If you see the drummer or anybody tap their foot, do you think it's the right take or the wrong take? It's the wrong take. The reason is they're trying to find the rhythm. So if I look around, I see I don't really need to do that now, but I used to look at the foot. If I see him tapping, I'd say, there's something going on. Now here's the other thing. Metabolism plays a really important part of listening, writing, and recording, all that stuff. I can't tell you how many times we go in a studio and we start, we play, we do take 1 to take 15, 20, and each one's getting faster and faster because you're trying to replace the intensity and the feel of the song by making it quicker because you think quicker will give it more energy. It doesn't. Makes it sound worse. So you listen to the tempo from beginning to end. So what do? That's the time the producer says, okay, it's time to take a break. No, but we're in it. We're ready to go. No, we need to take a break. Take a break, come back after eating a little food, whatever you do. There's your take. Right after that. Because then you're back settled in, there's your place. But it's all about knowing those types of things. You have to be aware of everything. It's really important. I told you about the Delords. I produced the Delords. I was going to talk to Elena about this too. Is that Scott Kempner was a really good friend of mine. He was also in the Dictators. He's the primary writer of the Delords. I did 2 records for them, and phenomenal songwriter, phenomenal artist, just the greatest guy. And he's suffering with dementia right now. Yeah, he's my dearest friend, and we got to send positive juju out in his world because this is a gifted guy beyond. If you listen to the words to, I think I told you about this, Poem of the River. Buy a Delords record, find Poem of the River, and listen to the lyrics and words on that song. It's spectacular. But I was telling David earlier, we get done, I'm working on a record, we got all the songs done, we need one more. So I say, play something you guys that you never thought about playing. So they get into this song, it's called Crawl in Bed. It ends up being my favorite song on a record. It's phenomenal. I don't know if it's on this one. Oh, where's that record? Oh, that. Oh, I'll have to look at that. There's one that's called When Johnny Comes Marching Home. That's one. And the other one is based on a true story. But when you hear the song Crawl in Bed and Poem of the River, spectacular stuff. Spectacular.
I think it's amazing to hear, again, you know, this theme of conversation, you know, that keeps coming up. And it's something that you introduced, and that was introduced into this whole thing, which I think we should talk about next a little bit. Because, you know, music itself is a conversation. I think when it's certainly, I can tell you from playing on a stage, I've played this stage several times. You know, I was just here for a blues night. And one of the great things about the blues, especially when it's done super well, is when we are all, as musicians on that stage, having that conversation in a fluid way, right? And everybody, there's call and answer, which is part of blues. You know, it's a very fundamental. Hey, it's like somebody saying something to you and maybe asking you a question, and then you answer back, and maybe you ask them a question, and then they answer back. It's all part of the conversation. This really was profoundly pushed to me in my first few meetings with 3-Chord, because everything about this, I can tell you the first meeting that I had, they were like, how can we help you? I didn't know what to do with that, because like you want to help me, you want to hear from me on how you can help me. I don't even know how to answer this question, but this is somebody who wants to listen. And this is what it's all about, right? You brought that up early. It's got to be the two parts, you know,
Correct.
listening, right? And so that's where I got involved with these guys, not knowing much, because Neil knows when we first sat down and really, you know, in two chairs and had a couple drinks, he said, "So, are you much of a bourbon guy?" And I said, "Nope, I'm a gin guy." And he goes, "Oh, we'll convert you."
Juniper, no good.
So we you know, that's kind of, you know, I guess that conversation aspect really drew me in. So tell me where this came into the picture and how you pull that in together, even with some of the stuff we've just been talking about
Correct.
in music.
Yeah, well, other than writing songs and things, I write screenplays and things of that nature and episodic stuff, and I just scribble it all the time. I got a couple of books I'm trying to finish. I'll probably finish in about 40 years from now. I won't be alive, but I'll be half finished. Somebody will find them and think it's funny or something. I don't know. But yeah, I do a lot of that. So I was working on a hybrid documentary, a give back to the local musicians that I worked with when I was a kid growing up in Ohio. These dreams, if you want to be a pop rock musician, your dream is playing in front of 20,000 people, 40,000. That doesn't always work for people. But what I try to, especially young people, I tell them all the time, I says, you know, careers are like a hand. So, you know, here you go, okay, here you go, you're playing Madison Square Garden. That's one dream. The other dream, well, you could be an engineer making records. You could be a producer. You could be, there's all these other things that you could fall into, right? And that's all important. But the idea of three chords, so the model behind it was to have a give back program. That was established day one, and it was May 16, 2016, the beginning, the birth of Three Chord Bourbon. And I wanted to start a company where we can help other musicians, because I really feel that it's my job. I have to. I really do, because I'm proud of what I've done, but I have a lot of humility. My father taught me that, and I want to give back. There's a place for everybody, you know, and everybody's music should be heard. And you know, and that's really important to me. So I try to get a spirit company for everyone to believe in the same thing, and they do. Every single person that works in the Three Chord family, which is David Miller too, because he's our lead music ambassador, along with Bass Reeves. Yeah. So what he does, he talks to the next new ambassador and tells them what to do, and of course everybody can talk to me anytime they want. So this is a whole process that we're working on. So the end game to Three Chord Bourbon is to be able to have a very successful company with a philanthropy that will continue on and on and on, and a give back, because the musicians, everybody's career is difficult, right? Everybody has a difficult career, right? A job. Musicians, it's because I've lived this before, and I've lived on, you know, I can't even tell you what I used to cook when I tried to, you know, suffering musician. And my wife would laugh at me because I used to make spaghetti in a coffee pot, because you could put the spaghetti in the coffee pot and then it would boil, and then it had a little thing in the screen, and then the water could come out, and then I'd open up a can of ragu, whatever, and throw that in there, and that was what I did. You know, it costed like 18 cents, and that was okay for me, right? So, but the point is I really feel as though it's my job to help musicians and do anything I can. And engagement and conversation, very important. Cell phones, put them down for a while and enjoy. Put on a record. Listen to a record, right? You know, sit on Three Chord, talk to your children, talk to your friend, call your best friend. You know, time flies, man. I'm gonna be 67 this year. I still feel as though I'm like 16, and I got my rope belt on and my sneakers. I'm ready to rip it up. You know, I still feel the same way. You know, we all do. We all do that. Let me tell you something about vinyl, because I want to say this, because I don't want to forget this. Because Elena's fabulous place is filled with all this beautiful metal and things. So vinyl, that record here, In the Heat of the Night, was done at a place in Glendale, California called MCA Whitney. And in that studio, there's a main room, room A, and there was a B room, which is a mixing room. So I'd record in A, the band, we'd record, get it, we'd mix in B. But guess what we did? we had a mastering plant in the studio. So when we finished the mix, they had tie lines into cutting of the vinyl. So we were actually sequencing, trying to find out how we can get the best tonality out of vinyl, because you may know this or you may not know this. If you do the physics of a record, it's this big, right? So 12, and as you move in, guess what? Those rings get smaller. If the rings get smaller, the V cut is thinner. That means the low end gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So by the time it gets to this thing, you're going to lose some low end fidelity. So when you mix, you have to make note of that. Wow. The record Crimes of Passion back here somewhere. It's one of them somewhere. If it ain't, it's not there. Hell is for Children. It was at the end of one side, and the reason it was because it was the longest song. And also, when we mixed it, we had to make sure that we'd have enough low end because it was taking up that spot. And lastly, what we would do with the vinyl, we take the acetates home, which I still have a lot of them, actually still. Yeah, that's wow. Pretty cool. Yeah, those are cool. I have them with the John Waite record I did too. I have his stuff too, and all the other things. I used to keep the acetates. But what we used to do is, once that was cut, the vinyl was cut, we'd scribble a little note on the vinyl. I don't know, do you ever look at where it smooths out at the end? You know, right at the very end? Look at the scribblings. If you own a lot of vinyl, look at what people put there. We would put special stuff there to know that it wasn't bootlegged, because that's what would happen in Indiana. You go look, if you go to Crimes of Passion, you'll probably see Pogo Logo. It'll say Pogo Logo on that. And there's little things that's how we were able to knock out, to get the bootleggers gone. Because we go, it's not on there. That means somebody built a mother from this without the real one, the real thing. So, but most studios didn't have that. They didn't have mastering plants in the studio. So that was a spectacular time. I was so honored and blessed. I don't like using that word because everybody's blessed. We're all blessed, right? But to have such a great engineer, co-producer, we worked so great together. We were a great team, and it was just great. It was a great moment. So look at the smooth little windings there. You'll see, or listen, use your ears and notice that those inner cuts, the very last ones, are going to be thin. They're going to be thinner. And listen to what's going on with that.
That's awesome. And to kind of let you know what this company is doing for.
Thanks for getting back to this, by the way.
Yeah, that's all right. No, that was an awesome.
It's an ADD moment.
No, it needed. That was something we wanted to talk about in here, so we had to get it in. This ambassador program, the show tonight is kind of a morphing of that idea, where we're going to be at Photo City Music Hall from 8 to 11. We've got some incredible musicians, Rochester Hall of Fame folks. We have Anthony Blood, who's a young rising musician in this scene, who's going to be opening up and jamming a little bit. We got Mr. Mike Nanula behind the camera. You got to hear this guy sing. He's going to sing.
The Rockin' Moroccan.
Obviously, Neil's going to be playing a little guitar with us. We've got Rena Williams, who's top 10 BET finalist, who's incredible. She's on my Rise video, on my Rise album. We've got the great Joe Beard, who's going to be playing. We've got Primetime Funk, who's going to be laying it down, and then Miller and the Other Sinners, the host band. And this just lets you know a little bit about how this brand supports and believes in music, because they're sponsoring this event, getting behind it, reaching into the community. So it's not just putting a band in your community, we're pulling musicians out of your community, and that's at the heart of this music ambassador program. We want to be able to help artists here in Rochester to continue to do their art and find ways to mentor and encourage them, and that's all part of the grand vision of this whole thing. And we're crawling, walking, running with it, but it's happening, and it's going to happen, and so we appreciate all of that. As a matter of fact, my drummer's going to show up in a couple minutes looking for the keys to my van so we can go start loading in, just to let you know if that happens.
Do I have to overemphasize that 2/4? Or is he going to lay that?
Well, hear him first, because you haven't heard him yet. And then you can decide what you need to say to him.
Yeah, I'm really hard on drummers, by the way, because drummer is really if you got a shitty drummer, he's not. He's a great drummer. This is really important. You know, I have grandbabies and daughters, and they always say, "Papa, watch what you say." I got to make myself clear.
Yeah.
Great drummer. But I am really hard on drummers because it's really the heartbeat of the track. And what I just have to add this too, because we went on a brother system, the buddy system, with Myron Grombacher, who was my favorite drummer, one of the greatest drummers in the world. We would do takes together. If he made a mistake, we do it again. If I made a mistake, we do it again. Jesse's girl, make a mistake, we do it again. Guitar and drums always get laid down at the same time, you work it together, right?
That's cool.
So I'm really hard. I play drums. I have one feel. It's a swing feel. I can't do anything else but that. But I really like it. I play drums on a lot of stuff, and I have a good time with that. But I'm really hard on drummers. I'm probably too hard on them. I am too hard on them. I should be a little easier.
Well, if Isaiah starts crying tonight,
You're
then you're gonna know.
I'll be the one crying.
But yeah, as a matter of fact, what was the movie we were just talking about?
Movie. Whiplash.
Whiplash.
Oh,
If you
phenomenal.
haven't seen Whiplash, you should. But talk about making a.
I was
drummer
never that hard. Okay, never that.
That's
hard.
another level.
I can tell you
That's a whole nother level.
The song called "All Fired Up." We were having a hard time trying to get this track to work. So I said I called Myron Tyrone, and I say Tyrone because he made fun of me because I said Myron. So Tyrone. So we couldn't get the track, and I was getting really frustrated and like, God damn, what the hell's the matter? Why can't we get it? You were almost ready to fight because that's kind of how we sort of express ourselves sometimes. Not all the way, you know, just getting your faces. I said, God damn it, stop it already. Let's make this. So the song, if you know the song All Fired Up, and you know the very beginning, that was only done one time, and that take. Because I said, you're gonna listen, give me this kick like this and listen, and I just did it without even thinking. And that is the take we did. Never did it again.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes being hard on one another, it's good.
To get that, to get where you get that thing out.
Only happened once. That's the beauty of making records with people.
That's so
rather than
awesome.
Just machines.
So I think what we want to do. Yep.
I'm gonna give you a time check here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of people want to take some pictures and have some autographs.
Sometimes feel like I'm an old oak tree.